What if I told you that your dreams are not just random firework, bursts of memory, fear, or wishful thinking, but whispers from a truer, deeper reality? That the places you visit when your eyes close at night might be more real than the streets you walk by day, more vivid than the conversations you've memorized, more meaningful than anything your waking self can comprehend? What if every night, a part of you slips free from the illusion of time and returns to a realm that feels unimaginably alive, only most people forget it by sunrise? Throughout ancient traditions, sleep was never regarded as a mere pause in consciousness. It was, instead, seen as a return to the soul's true home, a nightly pilgrimage to dimensions richer than daylight permits. The Egyptians believed that when the eyes shut, the Ka, one's spiritual double, rose from the physical vessel and wandered the world, gathering wisdom and guidance. In Tibetan dream yoga, sleep is a sacred practice, a threshold where one learns that the dream world is inseparable from waking reality. The indigenous peoples of the Amazon revered the dream state as a meeting place of spirits, ancestors, and guides. Sleep was never thought of as an ending, but as a crossing, a return to a realm where the soul touches its roots. Yet today, that belief has been lost, dismissed by science as neural misfiring or psychological quirk. We are taught to value logic over intuition, story over soul memory, analysis over awe. So when a dream grips us with inexplicable intensity, where landscapes feel achingly familiar or a presence feels more real than anyone we've met in waking life, we dismiss it as imagination, random brain noise, or emotional residue. We sleep, and what our soul experiences, we forget. We drift on the edge of something vast, then vanish at dawn, left with only fragments that feel half-truths or lies. This forgetfulness is so deeply embedded that even mentioning it sounds strange, like claiming you have a foot in another world. Yet what if that foot has always been there? There is a forbidden truth beneath the surface of mainstream consciousness. When we sleep, something else takes the wheel. Consciousness, the essential part of you that isn't wearing this body, isn't dormant. It awakens. It travels. When your senses rest, you gain senses you never knew existed. Perceptions of color made of meaning, structures of light that aren't confined to physics, conversations that occur through tone, vibration, silence. These are not hallucinations. They might be more real than everything your daytime mind believes. The reason this truth is forbidden is simple and unsettling. Power structures rely on your inability to remember your own divinity. When you're rooted only in the visible, you're easier to manipulate, easier to distract, easier to control. If you knew that your nightly soul travels were not delusions, but another form of knowing, what would that do to the status quo? When you remember, the matrix unravels. So the sleep state is quietly relegated to the bedroom, the subconscious silenced, as a mere sidekick of mind, not a teacher. We are conditioned to believe that what matters happens between 9 and 5, while the real lessons of life come dressed in shadow and half-light. But the need to remember is urgent. We are living in an era of amnesia, and it is costing us, and all life, humanity. Our dreams are not random, they are essential transmissions from the part of you still connected to everything. The soul is trying, night after night, to whisper guidance, healing, connection. The death of dreams is the slow death of intuition, of creativity, of the voice that knows what your mind cannot say yet. When the soul speaks through a dream you don't remember, or you push it away for being weird or unscientific, you are choosing to remain asleep again. And yet, these sleeper-born experiences have power. They guide inventions, deepen compassion, illuminate spiritual maps. A scientist wakes with the solution to an equation impossible by day. An artist dreams an image, then paints it with precision and awe. A healer receives the scent or shape of remedy, not from a thought book, but from the dreaming expanse where mind and spirit merge. Every inspiration that rises from silence is an echo of those forbidden realms. So what does it mean to remember your nighttime soul journeys? It means you shift from sleepwalking through life to dancing with reality's deeper rhythms. You learn to keep a journal by your bedside, not to dissect dreams, but to honor them as messages, not anomalies. You learn rituals before sleep that clear the haze, prayers, breath, intention, not to control the dream, but to open to its guidance. You pause upon waking, allowing the dream to slowly unfold in you, rather than be pushed aside with the alarm clock's roar. When remembering becomes your practice, you begin to awaken while you're asleep. You notice patterns of meaning, recurring symbols, entities that visit with purpose. You may even learn to move inside dreams with conscious will, lucidity so profound it dissolves the boundary between worlds. And in living from that awakened place, you bring the truth of those realms into your daily life. You are no longer someone trapped inside a single, simplified timeline. You become a traveler, a teacher, a witness to the inexplicable. Your waking life begins to shine with subtle reflections from the light you visit in sleep. What if dreams are more real than waking life? You may think that sounds dangerous, like believing in something intangible, impossible to persuade. But perhaps it is more dangerous not to believe it. Because what if the waking life is the illusion, and what if the soul's nightly travel is the only thing anchored in truth? This is not a leap into fantasy. It is an invitation to reclaim the night, to retrieve what's been hidden within you, and to wake up, both in your head and in the depths of your soul. And once you remember, everything changes. What if I told you that every time you drift into sleep, you're not simply shutting down, but stepping into a doorway between worlds? The cushion beneath your head becomes not just a cradle for rest, but the threshold of a deeper reality. Physically, your body enters a state of stillness, your heartbeat slows, your consciousness settles into a quiet horizon. Yet behind the eyelids, something entirely different stirs, a sacred awakening of your soul. When your body sleeps, it doesn't shut off. Instead, it relinquishes control, and in that moment of release, your soul awakens. It's like a traveler slipping out of a dense fog, into fields lit by starlight, a luminous realm your waking mind cannot easily perceive. Here, time doesn't flow in straight lines, and logic doesn't reign. You're no longer confined by flesh, identity, or the day's demands. Instead, your essence expands into the vastness from which you came, unconstrained and free. It's in these liminal moments, where consciousness balances on the cusp between waking and sleep, that the veil between worlds thins. At twilight, or just before dawn, this veil becomes a shimmering curtain. You sense something beyond the ordinary, an echo, a whisper, a presence you recognize yet can't quite name. Your awareness expands, and the distinction between here and there blurs. A sudden image, a feeling, a knowing takes root in your heart, and part of you remembers. Perhaps you've experienced waking from a dream feeling profoundly different. Maybe your mind is cluttered with mundane thoughts, but beneath that noise lies an unusual calm, or an electric clarity that defies explanation. You might stretch, breathe in, and taste something new in the air, as if you've inhaled not just oxygen, but insight. That sensation, that soft shift, is your soul's imprint, the residue of having passed through the threshold. It remains lodged in your bones, and your waking self tells you something extraordinary is trying to be remembered. Your body may feel heavy, reluctant to rise. Your mind may linger in fragments of imagery that don't make sense on the surface, but make perfect sense in the soul's language. Perhaps you replay a scene, a luminous landscape, a voice, a symbol. You can't pin it down, yet you know it's more meaningful than any TV show, more vivid than any real-world memory. The rational mind resists, but something else whispers, this was not random. This was you encountering truth beyond form. Every sleep is not just a pause in waking life, it is an invitation, a chance for that quieter, deeper part of you to return home, if only for a while. And when your soul returns to the body at morning's edge, it brings back what it has learned, the touch of subtle realms, the taste of what cannot be seen, the seed of transformation. That's why sometimes, after a single night, everything changes, even if you can't put it into words. You're not simply slipping into unconsciousness, you're entering a cosmic gateway. And if you pay attention, not just to your dreams, but to how you feel between worlds, the secret begins to unravel. You're more than your body, more than your routine, more than your story. You're a living, breathing bridge between dimensions, and when your soul awakens at night, it never sleeps. You may think sleep is a time when everything shuts down, when the body rests, the mind quiets, and all motion stops. But the truth is far more mysterious and profound. Because while your physical body may lie motionless under covers, your soul is anything but still. In fact, it becomes more active than you can comprehend. Sleep is not an off switch for consciousness, it's a doorway. A loosening of the tether that binds you to this physical world, allowing your soul to move freely beyond the veil of form. The soul doesn't require sleep the way the body does. It doesn't get tired in the way muscles or thoughts do, because the soul is energy in motion, always seeking, always expressing, always learning. And when your brain goes silent, the deeper self becomes active. It begins to drift, to travel, to return to realms that feel far more like home than anything you've known in waking life. These nightly journeys are not imagination, they are real. You are not dreaming about other places, you are visiting them. Have you ever had a night of sleep where you woke up feeling like you had lived an entirely different life? Where the sensations, the places, the people, felt too vivid to be fiction? You may have called it just a dream, but your soul knows otherwise. These are soul excursions, multidimensional journeys where your consciousness leaves the confines of space and time and travels to realms far more expansive than the physical plane. Sometimes you travel to the astral world, where thoughts create form, where beings communicate without words, where healing and teaching unfold with luminous precision. Other times, you move through layers of subtle reality you don't yet have words for, regions of learning, places of memory, zones of recalibration. Some souls return to familiar places, homes they've known in other lifetimes, temples they once trained in, landscapes that exist not in physical geography, but in the soul's long memory. You might return to spirit guides, to soul family, to those who assist you in your current incarnation. These encounters may feel like symbolic dreams when you wake, but beneath the symbols lies truth. These aren't fantasy characters. They are companions from beyond this incarnation, offering guidance, realignment, and preparation for the next chapter of your earthly experience. And sometimes, your soul goes to work while you sleep. You assist others, offer healing, participate in the invisible mechanics of spiritual service. You might be a teacher in another realm, a light bearer for souls in distress, a witness to events that have yet to unfold in physical time. This is why some people wake up utterly exhausted, even after 8 hours of sleep. The body has rested, yes, but the soul has been active all night. Moving through dimensions, performing missions, learning lessons, recalibrating timelines. You feel it as heaviness in the morning, not because you didn't rest, but because you were elsewhere. And coming back through the veil is not always seamless. These journeys can be exhilarating, illuminating, sometimes even jarring, and yet most people forget them entirely, because our waking mind isn't trained to understand these multidimensional experiences. They are filtered through metaphor, through story, through fragments. Your mind tries to categorize what it can't comprehend, and so the real soul journey is often dismissed as a strange or random dream. But deep down, you feel it, that feeling you can't explain upon waking, that lingering emotion, that subtle knowing, that faint ache for something you can't name. That's the imprint of where you've been. You've likely had those mornings where you wake up in tears, or joy, or a state of awe, but can't remember why. Your mind scrambles to find logic, but the feeling doesn't come from the conscious brain. It comes from your soul's memory of what it just experienced. The emotion is real, even if the storyline is gone. Your soul doesn't need words to remember. It speaks through vibration, through feeling, through resonance. And it's not just places your soul visits, it's wisdom. Every night, you have access to teachings beyond your current level of awareness. Sometimes they come in visions, sometimes through energetic downloads, sometimes through contact with beings that exist outside the limitations of this world. These encounters recalibrate your path, fine-tune your intuition, and prepare you for things that your waking mind has yet to face. You may not remember the details, but you carry the essence with you. That gut instinct, that shift in perspective, that sudden clarity that comes days later, that's the echo of your soul's nightly learning. The more you become aware of these journeys, the more you begin to understand the spiritual technology behind sleep. It's not just about rest, it's about reunion. Every time you sleep, you reunite with your soul's larger mission. You re-enter the sacred conversation between your incarnate self and your eternal self. And if you begin to approach sleep with reverence, with intention, with openness, you will begin to remember. You can set the stage before bed, through breath, through prayer, through invitation. Ask your soul to guide you, ask to remember. Keep a journal by your bed. Write down even fragments, feelings, symbols, names. Over time, the fragments will piece together. You will begin to see patterns. You will begin to remember not just what happened, but who you are when it happens. And the more you remember, the more grounded you become. Not grounded in the mundane sense, but grounded in truth. You begin to see that the waking world is only a sliver of reality. That behind the curtain of form is a vast and luminous network of meaning, and that every night your soul re-enters that network, not as a visitor, but as a rightful participant. You are not just a dreamer, you are a traveler, you are a student of unseen realms, you are a being of light who temporarily wears form. Your soul never sleeps. It only waits for you to remember that sleep is not the end of awareness, but the beginning of its most sacred expression. And in that remembering, you awaken to a truth so deep, it reshapes how you live, how you love, and how you listen to the silent wisdom that comes each night, wrapped in the mystery of dreams. There are dreams, and then there are visions. Most people never learn the difference. They drift off at night and experience a kaleidoscope of fragmented thoughts, flickers of memory, or absurdities stitched together by the subconscious mind. These are the ordinary dreams, reflections of daily residue, echoes of emotional unrest, psychological patterns recycling themselves in symbolic language. But every so often, something else occurs. Something deeper, something unmistakable, a dream that does not feel like a dream at all, a dream that lives inside you, that changes you, that speaks with the authority of the eternal, that is not created by the mind, but received by the soul. That is a vision. The vision state is not an invention of imagination, it is a visitation from a higher truth. It does not simply arise from within you, it descends into you. It is infused with clarity, weight, and presence. Unlike ordinary dreams, which dissolve into confusion upon waking, a vision leaves a sacred residue. Even if the images are abstract or symbolic, the experience remains vivid. You don't need to interpret it right away to know it matters, you just feel it in your bones. These are the moments where the soul accesses the ether, the unseen dimension where all truth resides. While your body lies still and unconscious, your soul moves freely through spiritual realms that are inaccessible to your waking awareness. There, it gathers insight, not through thinking, but through being. In the vision state, knowledge is not taught, it is absorbed. The veil is lifted, and you remember what was hidden, not through logic, but through light. These spiritual downloads often come encoded in symbols, feelings, or flashes of radiant knowing. You might wake up with a solution to a problem you never consciously resolved, a new idea, a creative surge, a clear sense of what must be done, even if you don't yet know why. This is how the soul communicates, through impressions that bypass the noise of your mind. And when you begin to trust these subtle messages, you begin to walk through life differently, with confidence, with intuition, with inner clarity that doesn't need external validation. The ancient world knew this truth well. Long before the noise of modern life, civilizations honored the vision state as sacred. Temples were built where initiates would go to sleep for the sole purpose of receiving divine guidance. This practice, known in some traditions as dream incubation, was not superstition, it was technology. A spiritual technology based on the understanding that sleep was not a void, but a passage, a holy communion between the human and the divine. In these temples, seekers would lie in silence under the stars, fasted and purified, waiting for their visions. They believed the gods would speak to them through symbols, through stories, through otherworldly encounters in the night. And often, they did. Not in the literal voice of deities, but through energetic transmissions that imprinted themselves into the soul's awareness. The outcome? Healing, direction, transformation. Their lives were guided not by intellectual debate, but by direct revelation. Modern culture has lost this reverence for the vision state. It treats dreams as meaningless static background noise of a resting brain. But you know better. You've felt the difference. You've awakened from a night with your heart pounding, your mind racing, and your spirit knowing. Something profound just happened, even if you can't explain it. Maybe you saw a figure glowing with light. Maybe you walked through a place you've never visited, but recognized instantly. Maybe you received words you could barely hold, because they carried the frequency of destiny. That's not imagination. That's soul vision. And not all visions come with grandeur or mysticism. Sometimes they arrive quietly. A single sentence. A presence watching over you. A gentle voice whispering truth into your sleep. The power of the vision is not in its drama, it's in its vibration. It shifts you, it elevates your perspective, it aligns you with something larger than your mind can comprehend. If you want to cultivate this state, the first step is willingness. A genuine desire to remember. Before sleep, speak directly to your soul. Ask it to reveal what needs to be seen. Set the intention to receive what your conscious mind cannot yet grasp, and then surrender. The more you trust this process, the more vivid the vision state becomes. You'll begin to notice the difference between a typical dream and a transmission from the divine. One fades, the other lingers. One entertains, the other transforms. Visions are not reserved for mystics or prophets. They are a natural function of your soul's evolution. You were born with the capacity to receive them. It's just that, somewhere along the way, the world taught you to forget, to mock the unseen, to ignore the inner knowing. But the visions never stopped. You did. Now, you're returning. Not to who you were told to be, but to who you've always been, a receiver of divine light, a translator of soul wisdom. You are the bridge between heaven and earth, and the vision state is the moment that bridge becomes active. You are not asleep. You are awakening in the space between worlds. And when you learn to trust what your soul sees, you begin to live from a deeper center, one that knows, one that remembers, one that sees clearly even in the dark. While your body sleeps, your soul doesn't just wander aimlessly, it navigates a precise and multi-layered architecture of consciousness known as the astral realms. These realms are not dreams, nor are they illusions. They are real, just not real in the way most people are trained to recognize. The astral world is a dimension of subtle energy, existing parallel to the physical world, vibrating at a higher frequency, beyond the perception of the five senses. And while it remains invisible to waking eyes, it is the very place your soul returns to night after night, often without your conscious awareness. The structure of the astral world is vast. Think of it less as a place and more as a spectrum, a layered field of vibrations that correspond to different states of consciousness. Lower astral levels often reflect the unresolved emotions, fears, and attachments of the soul, densely packed energies shaped by shadow and illusion. These levels are what some would mistakenly call nightmares, or heavy dream sequences filled with confusion or fear, but they are not meaningless. They are reflections of your own inner terrain, your unresolved wounds, your hidden beliefs, the echoes of your energetic field made manifest. The soul enters these zones not as punishment, but for purification, to learn, to confront, and to transmute. Above the lower realms lie the middle astral planes, frequencies of beauty, healing, and reunion. Here, the soul often meets guides, mentors, and loved ones who have passed on but remain present in the unseen world. These realms are filled with luminous landscapes that defy earthly logic, cities of light, halls of knowledge, gardens that breathe with awareness, and temples made of sound and vibration. You may have glimpsed these places in dreams that felt so vivid, so sacred, you woke up with tears in your eyes, and a longing you couldn't explain. That wasn't imagination, that was memory. In the upper astral planes, the soul experiences unity, downloads of higher wisdom, and connection to divine intelligence. These are the realms visited by mystics, seers, and those in deep spiritual practice. They are places where thought and creation are one, where what you feel is instantly visible, and where your soul merges into the presence of greater truth. Accessing these higher levels often requires purification, of intention, of emotion, of ego. But even brief contact with these realms can leave a lasting imprint, awakening the soul and accelerating your spiritual evolution in ways no earthly teaching could match. During these nightly journeys, the soul doesn't travel alone. It's common to encounter guides, beings of light, who have dedicated themselves to your growth across lifetimes. These guides are not figments of the imagination, but advanced souls who communicate through symbols, sensations, and direct transmission. Sometimes they appear as ancestors. Sometimes as beings you've never met but instantly recognize. Their presence can feel like love so complete it breaks you open. They do not always speak, because their language is energy. But their guidance is unmistakable. You may not remember the words, but you will remember the shift, the clarity, the peace, the knowing. You might also meet other souls, members of your soul family, karmic companions, or beings you are destined to assist or be assisted by. These meetings are often the source of déjà vu in waking life, or the sense of instantly knowing someone you've just met. You may have journeyed together during sleep, made soul contracts, exchanged healing, or offered support in a realm where the heart speaks louder than language. These encounters help recalibrate your path and remind you that you are not walking alone, even if the physical world sometimes feels isolating. But here lies the mystery. If these journeys are real, why do most people forget? Why do you wake up with only fragments, or nothing at all? The forgetting is not accidental, it is protective. The vibration of the astral realms is so different from the density of the physical body that much of what is seen or felt there cannot be fully translated into waking consciousness. It's like trying to remember a dream while submerged underwater. Your mind wasn't designed to carry all that information into form. The download is there, but it's often hidden behind symbols, impressions, and subtle emotions. Additionally, not everyone is meant to recall everything. Some experiences are meant to stay in the subconscious until the soul is ready. Bringing too much astral information into waking life can overwhelm or confuse the unprepared ego. So the mind filters, distorts, or simply erases, leaving only feelings, glimpses, or the occasional flash of lucidity. But make no mistake, your soul remembers. And over time, with intention and spiritual practice, you can train your waking self to remember too. The secret lies not in force, but in invitation. You cannot drag astral memory through willpower, but you can welcome it. Begin by honoring your dreams, no matter how fragmented. Journal them. Speak them, feel into them. Notice recurring themes, emotions, colors, and symbols. These are not random, they are keys. Before sleep, set the intention to remember. Ask your guides to assist. Breathe slowly, clear your space, treat sleep as sacred, and it will begin to reveal its hidden teachings. Because the truth is this: your nightly journeys are part of your soul's curriculum. They are not entertainment or hallucination. They are training grounds, healing temples, reunion spaces, and wisdom portals. They are where your soul breathes when the body rests. They are where the invisible becomes visible, and they are far more real than the so-called reality you walk through by day. You are not just a body lying in bed each night. You are a multidimensional being engaged in a vast, luminous process of becoming. Your soul is not asleep. It is learning, healing, serving, and remembering. And every night, it invites you to join in that remembering, not as a dreamer, but as a traveler awakening to the truth. When your physical eyes close and your mind begins to surrender its grip on reality, another set of eyes opens. These are not located in your head or bound by the body. They belong to the soul, the eternal witness that sees without sight, hears without sound, and knows without explanation. This is the vision that operates beyond the senses, perceiving what the human body was never designed to comprehend. In this expanded state of awareness, you enter a domain where truth isn't spoken. It is shown, not in words, but in light, in symbol, in vibration. It is here that the soul sees what the eyes never can. You may not remember every detail when you wake, but somewhere inside you, the memory remains. There are nights when you encounter symbols that burn themselves into your consciousness, not the kind you read in a book, but symbols that speak to you in a language deeper than language itself. Circles, spirals, triangles, glowing with meaning, shifting and pulsating with intelligence. You know, without knowing how, that these forms are not arbitrary, they are keys, codes, portals. Each one reveals a hidden aspect of your own divine design. Often, the soul is shown light, not the light from the sun or a lamp, but a living light, light that breathes, light that feels, light that communicates. These are not hallucinations. They are consciousness in luminous form. Sometimes, you may encounter beings made of this light. You don't hear them speak with voices, yet you understand them perfectly. Their presence feels like home. You don't always recognize their appearance, but your soul recognizes their frequency. And that recognition stirs something ancient in you, a knowing that you've met before, beyond time, in other dimensions where light is the native tongue. In these moments, you're not dreaming, you are remembering. You are interacting with realms that exist parallel to this one, but vibrate at a frequency too subtle for the physical senses. And your soul, no longer limited by the density of matter, glides effortlessly through these fields of sacred geometry and sentient light. You find yourself standing before structures that defy earthly logic, temples that shimmer in crystalline perfection, stairways that rise into nowhere, libraries filled with books that glow with golden aura. These are not hallucinations. They are glimpses into the blueprint of reality. They are reminders of the universe's sacred architecture, the geometry of consciousness itself. There are places where color exists in tones you've never seen, where sound reveals shape, where emotion carries scent. Your soul drinks these in with a familiarity that baffles the rational mind. Because you're not learning in these realms, you're remembering. The truth is not new, it is simply returning. And every night that you enter these dimensions, even if you forget by morning, your soul brings back the vibration. It carries the imprint of that light, that wisdom, and it weaves it into your being like thread through a needle. That's why some mornings you wake up different, lighter, calmer, as if something in you was rearranged in the night. The soul's perception operates not through observation but through union. In the physical world, you see things from a distance. You observe an object, a person, an experience from the outside. But the soul merges. It becomes what it perceives. If the soul encounters truth, it is that truth. If it meets with love, it becomes that love. This is why encounters in these realms feel so profoundly intimate. There is no separation between you and what you perceive. You are not watching a vision, you are inside it. It moves through you. It changes you from the inside out. And then there are the encounters with Source, the ones that defy all language. Sometimes, in the deepest layers of sleep, when the body is silent and the soul has gone far enough, you brush against the presence of the One. You may not see a face or hear a voice, but you feel an overwhelming surge of love so vast, so infinite, that it erases all fear, all doubt, all confusion. In that moment, you remember. Not intellectually, but viscerally. You remember where you came from, you remember what you are. Not a name, not a role, but a radiant extension of Source itself. This is not metaphor, it is memory. You were born from light, and that light calls you back every night through the visions of the soul. It reaches for you not through force, but through resonance. Through symbols that feel like echoes, through colors that hum with familiarity, through sacred structures that whisper your forgotten name. You may not recall every journey. You may not always remember what the soul saw, but the energy remains. It works quietly inside you, reshaping your thoughts, your choices, your path. The more you begin to trust what cannot be seen with physical eyes, the more you align with what is truly real, not the shifting illusions of the material world, but the eternal patterns that hold it all together. You begin to understand that your dreams are not just dreams, they are transmissions, they are teachings, they are love letters from the divine, written in a language your soul never forgot. And when you honor these nightly encounters, when you hold space for them upon waking, even if it's just a few minutes of stillness, a few scribbled notes in a journal, you invite more of that truth into your waking life. You begin to see with the eyes of the soul even while awake. You notice the signs, the synchronicities, the symbols hidden in plain sight. Life becomes a continuation of the vision, and eventually, the division between dreaming and waking begins to dissolve. Because the soul never stops seeing, it only waits for you to remember how to look. Every night, without realizing it, you enter a classroom far more advanced than any school you've ever attended. There are no desks, no teachers standing at the front, no chalkboards or written tests. And yet, what happens during your sleep may be some of the most vital soul development you ever experience. You think you're just resting, recharging from the stress of the day, but behind the curtain of physical rest, your soul is deep in session. Sleep is not simply about biological repair, it's where the soul re-engages with the deeper curriculum of its eternal evolution. This hidden curriculum of sleep is sacred, complex, and deeply personal. It isn't about intellectual knowledge, it's about the refinement of your essence. While your physical body lies still, your soul is reviewing, processing, remembering, and adjusting. It enters states of vibrational alignment where it can engage with lessons that are difficult to access in waking life. These are not generic, one-size-fits-all teachings. They are tailored specifically to you, based on your soul's progress, your past experiences, and what your next evolutionary steps require. Some of these lessons happen symbolically, through powerful, often strange dreams. Others happen energetically, through soul-to-soul transmissions, light codes, or direct interaction with higher dimensional guides. The experience can be as soft as a whisper or as shattering as a spiritual earthquake. Sometimes it appears as a dream, where you're reliving an old memory or facing a challenge. You might brush it off as nonsense, but underneath the imagery, something is being healed or awakened. There's always more happening than you can consciously perceive. One of the central functions of this nighttime curriculum is the processing of karma. Karma is not punishment, it is feedback. It's the soul's way of realigning itself with the higher order of truth, balance, and unconditional love. And while karma plays out in waking life through relationships, events, and emotional triggers, it is also deeply worked on during sleep. Your soul may revisit past actions, both from this life and others, to reflect, understand, and release. You may find yourself in dreams where you're apologizing, healing a wound, or finally being seen by someone who once hurt you. These aren't just psychological replays, they are soul recalibrations, often happening in dimensions where the emotional charge can be released more efficiently than in physical reality. This is also why certain dreams leave you feeling exhausted or emotionally raw. It's because you weren't just dreaming, you were working. You were repairing chords, closing loops, and unraveling knots that have existed across lifetimes. That sense of waking up from a dream that makes no logical sense but feels profoundly meaningful? That's your soul having just completed an assignment. It doesn't need your mind to understand it for the healing to take root. The release happens in the energetic field first. Your mind catches up later, sometimes years later, when you're finally ready to see. Another layer of this hidden curriculum is soul assignments. These are roles your soul takes on during sleep to assist others or receive guidance yourself. You may be helping a soul cross over, offering healing to someone you know in this life, or working in realms where energy grids are realigned. These assignments can be subtle or profound. Sometimes you'll remember them with clarity, sometimes not, but they impact you all the same. They shape your path, influence your decisions, and deepen your inner wisdom. Even if you don't remember the dream, the energy stays with you. It becomes part of your frequency. Some of the most profound transformations occur in this invisible space, not because you're reading or thinking, but because you're being retuned. During these journeys, your soul sheds outdated beliefs, integrates soul fragments, and reconnects with aspects of itself that have been lost or hidden. It's why, after a particularly intense dream, you can wake up and feel changed without knowing why. It's not your imagination, it's integration. And it's happening because your soul has chosen this time, this life, this night, to evolve. Dreams are often the medium through which this teaching happens, but they're just the surface layer. Think of dreams as the language your subconscious uses to make sense of soul work happening in deeper fields. They're symbolic expressions of something more multidimensional, something your human brain could never fully comprehend. A recurring dream might not be a problem to fix, but a lesson repeating itself until it's learned. A strange landscape might be a soul environment you've visited before. A faceless guide might be your higher self stepping forward when the ego finally steps aside. Emotional healing during sleep is another vital aspect of this curriculum. The heart, often burdened by the density of waking life, finds space to breathe and release in the dream world. The grief you've buried surfaces as a wave of tears in a dream that seems unrelated. The fear you've denied plays out as a nightmare that finally lets you face it. The forgiveness you couldn't offer in waking life is experienced in a dream hug from someone you thought you'd never see again. These aren't accidents. They are orchestrated events created for your soul's growth. And the truth is, the more you lean into this process, the more you become aware of it. You begin to feel when your dreams carry weight. You begin to recognize the difference between a surface dream and a soul lesson. You start noticing synchronicities that echo what you dreamt. You start preparing for sleep not just as rest, but as sacred engagement. You understand that the night isn't empty, it's full of light, intelligence, and purpose. So what does it mean for you now, in your life? It means your healing doesn't stop when you go to bed. It means you are being guided, taught, and transformed, even when you're unaware. It means you are never alone in your evolution. Even in sleep, your soul is on assignment, completing the work of lifetimes, rediscovering its light, and preparing you for the version of yourself that has yet to fully arrive. Sleep is not escape, it's a return to your truest self, and every time you close your eyes, the door opens once again. There are moments in life when something stirs deep within you, a sensation you can't explain, a feeling that lingers like smoke from an invisible fire. You may have brushed it off as coincidence, as a fleeting thought, but your soul knows otherwise. It was a signal, a whisper from beyond the surface of your awareness. And most often, it came while you slept. The mind is limited by time, logic, and the known. It sees the world through a narrow lens, constructed by experience and belief, but the soul sees through timeless eyes. It stretches beyond the boundaries of past, present, and future, tapping into a field of infinite intelligence. While the body rests and the thinking mind recedes, the soul awakens to this broader vision. It sees what's coming long before it arrives. It receives impressions, symbols, and truths that the conscious self isn't ready to perceive. This is how premonitions are born. Sometimes these messages arrive gently, a dream of a place you've never been, but feel deeply connected to. Other times, they come with such intensity that you wake with your heart pounding, your skin damp, your breath shallow. You know, in the very center of your being, that what you saw wasn't just a dream. You were being shown something, warned, prepared. These nighttime warnings don't always come in direct form. Rarely will you see a clear image of an event or hear exact words of instruction. The soul speaks in symbol and vibration. You may dream of water rising uncontrollably, a storm gathering on the horizon, a door you cannot open, and while these images may seem cryptic, the energy behind them is unmistakable. Something is approaching. A change, a choice, a consequence. And your soul is trying to get your attention before it arrives. There's a reason certain dreams wake you with urgency. It's not anxiety, it's resonance. Your soul is vibrating at a higher frequency in that moment, and the message is still reverberating through your energy field. You may not have the full understanding yet, but the emotional imprint stays with you. That's how you know it matters. The intellect may forget, but the soul remembers. Ancient cultures understood this deeply. They didn't dismiss dreams as random mental noise. They revered them as sacred messages from the unseen realms. Kings wouldn't go to war without first consulting their seers. Elders would interpret dreams as omens. Shamans would sleep in trance to retrieve wisdom from the spirit world. In Egypt, Greece, India, and indigenous tribes across the earth, sleep visions were held with great reverence. Why? Because they believed that in the quiet of night, the soul returned to the source, to speak with the divine, to receive instruction. to bring back truth for the waking world. It wasn't superstition, it was spiritual technology. These cultures knew that while the eyes were closed, a higher perception opened, and they listened, they wrote down their dreams, they shared them, they acted on them. And their lives were guided by more than just logic, they were guided by the language of the soul. In today's world, we've lost that connection. We've silenced our dreams with distraction, denied their power with skepticism. We label them weird, vivid, or strange, and move on. But something in you still remembers. You've had dreams you couldn't shake. Moments when something you saw while asleep unfolded later with eerie precision. Maybe you ignored the message at the time, only to look back and see it clearly. Maybe you listened and avoided a mistake, a danger, a loss. Maybe you're still wondering what a certain dream was trying to tell you. The soul doesn't waste energy. Every vision has a purpose. If a dream comes with urgency, it's because the message is vital. It may be warning you of a person's true intentions. It may be nudging you away from a path that leads to destruction, or it may be preparing you for something sacred, a spiritual test, a powerful initiation, a moment that will define your evolution. Premonitions are not curses, they are gifts. Even when they reveal difficult truths, even when they shake you awake, they are reminders that you are not navigating this life blind. You have guidance within you, an inner compass that sees the road ahead long before your mind catches up, but you must learn to listen. Not every dream is a prophecy, not every image is literal. But when a dream feels different, when it clings to you with a sense of importance, when it stirs something deeper than thought, that's when you pay attention. That's when you slow down and ask, what is my soul trying to show me? Start with trust. Trust that your dreams are more than random images. Trust that your soul is in constant communication with you, even if the messages are subtle. Begin writing down your dreams the moment you wake, not just the story, but the feeling, the energy, the symbols that stood out. Over time, you'll begin to see patterns. A language will emerge. You'll start recognizing the difference between a mental release and a spiritual transmission. Some dreams will come repeatedly, changing slightly each time. That's because the message is evolving. Your soul is refining it as you grow. Other dreams will be one-time flashes, strong, clear, unforgettable. Those are the ones that often carry the most weight. They don't return because they've already done their work. It's now up to you to act on them. This isn't about fear. Nighttime warnings are not meant to frighten you. They are meant to empower you. To help you choose wisely, see clearly, and navigate life from a place of soul awareness rather than confusion. They are sacred messengers sent from your higher self, from realms that love you too much to let you sleep through your destiny. And when you learn to listen, truly listen, the whole fabric of your life changes. You begin to move with confidence, not because you have all the answers, but because you've remembered how to access the ones that matter. You begin to feel protected, not because nothing bad will ever happen, but because you're connected to guidance that will always lead you through it. Your soul is always watching, always speaking, always sending signs, especially while you sleep, especially when the world is quiet, especially when you're ready to hear what the mind can't see. The question is, will you listen? Something has been quietly lost in the modern age, and most people don't even realize it. It's not just attention spans or stillness or time, it's the soul's ability to fully engage with its own sacred sleep journey. Somewhere along the path of progress, the very connection that once allowed us to receive guidance, wisdom, and healing during the night has been severed. What was once a natural and vital part of human experience, entering the dream world with reverence, remembering our travels, understanding our lessons, has now been buried under the noise of artificial living. And as a result, we are no longer truly resting, and more importantly, we are no longer truly listening. In ancient times, sleep was sacred. Dreaming was not just a function of the brain, it was communion with the soul. Cultures all over the world viewed dreams as divine messages, glimpses into higher realms, insights into karma, and warnings from spiritual guides. The people who dreamed deeply were often revered as seers and messengers, and children were taught to remember their dreams, to understand their symbolism, to trust their inner world. sleep was seen as a nightly reunion with the divine, not a biological inconvenience to be delayed, hacked, or minimized. But in today's world, everything has changed. We live in a society that no longer values the sacred. Our lives are dominated by constant stimulation, screens glowing into the late hours, notifications demanding attention, information overload, numbing our natural sensitivity. Artificial light has hijacked our circadian rhythm, tricking the body into staying alert when it should be descending into restorative stillness. The pineal gland, once a powerful antenna for spiritual perception, and has been dulled by chemicals, stress, and lack of darkness. Instead of preparing ourselves for sacred sleep, we binge content, scroll endlessly, and fall into bed with overstimulated minds and disconnected hearts. This overstimulation doesn't just interfere with sleep, it fractures the bridge between consciousness and the soul. When you fall asleep in a state of mental noise, your ability to access deeper dimensions is diminished. You may still dream, but the messages are scrambled, the pathways are blocked, and the guidance is lost in a sea of fragmented imagery. Your soul still tries to reach you, still journeys without you, but the tether that once allowed you to remember is thin, frayed, barely holding. And when you wake, you feel it, not just as fatigue, but as a strange emptiness, a sense that something vital happened, and you missed it. Most people walk through their lives in this kind of spiritual amnesia. They believe dreams don't matter, that sleep is just for rest, that what happens during the night has no bearing on their path. But the cost of this forgetting is immense. By cutting off our connection to the dream world, we cut off our connection to the soul itself. We lose access to inner guidance that could redirect our lives. We ignore the warnings that could prevent pain. We dismiss the encounters that could deepen our sense of belonging and purpose. And over time, we become more anxious, more lost, more exhausted, not because our bodies are tired, but because our spirits are starved. When you ignore your dream life, you're not just missing out on interesting stories or strange images. You are ignoring a fundamental aspect of your own evolution. You're turning away from the nightly classroom, your soul designed just for you. You're closing your ears to the whispers of guides, the echoes of past lives, the blueprints of your higher path. And over time, your intuition dims, your creativity dulls, your capacity for self-healing withers. You forget that you are more than flesh and thought. You are light, energy, awareness, and memory, all trying to come back into alignment. But this connection isn't lost forever. The soul is patient. And even if the world has pulled you away from your sacred sleep, you can return. You can reclaim what has always been yours. It begins by choosing to approach sleep differently, not as a chore or a crash landing, but as a sacred ritual. Begin with intention. Before you close your eyes, speak a silent prayer or request. May I remember where I go. May I receive what I need. May I awaken with truth. These words, spoken with sincerity, open a doorway. They signal to your soul that you are ready to re-engage. Next, create space. Dim the lights well before sleep. Turn off screens. Replace noise with silence or gentle music. Breathe deeply. Place your hand on your heart and feel your body soften. Let go of the day, not just its events, but its identities, its tensions, its illusions. You are not who the world says you are. You are who your soul knows you to be, and that self will rise once your body falls into sleep. Keep a journal beside your bed. Write down whatever you remember upon waking, even if it's only a feeling, a color, a name. Don't judge or analyze it, just record it. Over time, the fragments will begin to take shape. You will start to notice themes, patterns, and messages. The bridge between the worlds will strengthen, and the dream state will no longer feel like random chaos. It will feel like home. Also, pay attention to how you feel when you wake. Sometimes the body feels fine, but the soul feels weary. Sometimes you wake with insights that have no source, or clarity that wasn't there the night before. This is evidence that you've been somewhere, learned something, healed something. Acknowledge it, give thanks, and then walk into your day not as someone who just slept, but as someone who traveled, served, received, and returned. In reclaiming your sacred sleep, you begin to reverse the fragmentation. You remind your body that darkness is not something to fear, it's something to trust. You teach your mind that stillness is not emptiness, it is the gateway to deeper awareness. And you invite your soul back into the rhythm it has always known, rising, learning, remembering, returning. The world may not understand this path. It may continue to glorify sleeplessness, overstimulation, and disconnection, but you do not need to follow that path. You are here to remember. You are here to feel. And your sleep is not the end of your consciousness. It is the beginning of your most sacred awakening. Sleep paralysis is one of the most misunderstood phenomena in the modern world. For those who have experienced it, there's nothing quite like it, the strange sensation of waking up but being completely unable to move, speak, or cry out. It can last seconds or minutes, yet within those moments, terror often strikes. You may feel a presence in the room, a weight on your chest, a sense of something dark and watching. Science calls it a glitch in the sleep cycle, a brief misfiring between REM and waking states. But the soul knows better. This is not merely a biological malfunction. It is a spiritual event, and for some, it is a moment of profound struggle. You are not just a body lying in bed, you are a soul housed within that body, and every night, the soul journeys beyond it. While your physical form rests, your essence travels to higher dimensions, other timelines, subtle realms where healing, learning, and remembering take place. But what happens when that soul returns only partially? What happens when the reintegration isn't smooth, when your awareness comes back into the body before your energetic systems are fully aligned? That's when sleep paralysis occurs. It is the soul's struggle to reintegrate with the physical vessel. In these moments, your consciousness wakes up before your body is ready. The soul is still adjusting to the frequency of the physical plane, and so you find yourself stuck in the in-between. Your eyes may open, but your limbs won't respond. You may try to call for help, but your voice won't come. And in that liminal state, the veil remains thin. You are still partially in the other world. You are still open, vulnerable, and this is where things can get even more complex. For some, sleep paralysis is accompanied by feelings of dread or encounters with dark presences, the shadowy figure at the foot of the bed, the crushing sensation on the chest, the invisible force that watches from the corner of the room. These are not hallucinations. They are the residue of the astral realms. Sometimes, when your soul returns from its journeys, it brings back fragments, energies, impressions, or encounters that haven't fully cleared. Other times, what you're feeling is resistance from within your own field, unhealed trauma, fear, or spiritual blockages that resist the soul's full re-entry. And yes, there are occasions when negative entities seek to exploit this vulnerable state, attempting to latch onto the fragmented moment when your consciousness is in flux. But fear is never the answer. The truth is, you are never truly in danger. Even in the scariest episodes, your soul is still sovereign. What you need is awareness and preparation. Understanding the nature of this state is the first step to mastering it. When you realize that sleep paralysis is not an attack, but a misalignment, not a punishment, but a signal, you begin to take back your power. One of the keys is grounding. Before you sleep, make it a sacred practice to center yourself. The body, mind, and soul must be in harmony before you release into the night. Avoid chaotic input, violent media, stressful conversations, overstimulation. Cleanse your energy with breathwork, prayer, or intentional stillness. Create a protective field around yourself, not from fear, but from reverence. You are preparing to leave your body and return later. Make that return easier by maintaining clarity in your field. Use symbols or rituals that resonate with your soul's knowing. Some find comfort in placing crystals like black tourmaline or amethyst by their bed. Others prefer speaking words of protection, invoking higher beings, or simply affirming their intention. I travel in light, I return in peace, I awaken in wholeness. These simple acts send a signal, both to your subconscious and to the realms you'll visit, that you are walking with awareness. If you experience sleep paralysis, breathe slowly, don't fight. Fighting only amplifies fear and keeps you trapped. Instead, remember, your soul is present, your body is simply catching up. Try moving a single finger or toe. Small movements are often the bridge that reopens communication between consciousness and muscle. Call in light, even silently. Visualize yourself surrounded by golden energy. This is not just imagination, it is energetic recalibration. Over time, those who experience sleep paralysis often become more spiritually sensitive. This is not a curse, but a sign of your evolving awareness. Your soul is navigating complex dimensions. Your body is learning to hold more light. These moments are invitations to deepen your relationship with the unseen. They teach humility, patience, and trust in the mystery of being multidimensional. Some people who once feared sleep paralysis come to see it as a gateway, a teacher, a moment of transition where the veil lifts just enough to glimpse the truth, that you are not just flesh and thought. You are spirit inhabiting matter, and sometimes that merging takes time. Don't fear the struggle. Instead, see it for what it is, the sacred work of reintegration, the soul returning to its temple, the light re-entering form. It may be uncomfortable, it may be disorienting, but it is part of your evolution. And if you felt alone in this, if no one around you understands what you've been through, know this: you are not broken, you are not imagining it, you are awakening to a deeper truth. And every experience, even the paralyzing ones, is a doorway to understanding just how powerful your soul truly is. The more you honor your nightly journeys, the smoother your returns will become. The more you prepare with love and reverence, the more your sleep becomes a sacred passage instead of a battlefield. And the more you trust in the strength of your spirit, the less fear will have any hold on you. Your soul knows the way back, every time, even when the body is slow to catch up, even when the veil is thick, even when darkness tries to linger. You are light, you are protected. You are remembering how to return in full. Have you ever woken up with an idea so vivid, so complete, that it felt like it didn't come from you at all? Perhaps a solution to a problem that had been haunting you suddenly appeared in your mind, effortlessly and fully formed. Or maybe you found yourself writing words, painting images, composing music, or speaking insights that you never studied, never practiced, and yet felt as if they had been inside you all along. These moments of waking inspiration aren't just coincidences. They are signals, evidence that your soul has been gathering, retrieving, and remembering from realms that operate beyond the boundaries of time and logic. What you experience as sudden knowing is often the direct result of downloads from higher dimensions received while you slept. Your soul is never confined to your physical education or your intellectual background. It has lived across ages. It has walked in temples, spoken with sages, studied in unseen halls of light. And when the body sleeps and the waking mind recedes, that soul re-engages with the wisdom it has already earned. It meets with guides, accesses fields of collective consciousness, and aligns with universal intelligence. During these nocturnal journeys, the soul receives what it needs, not through books or words, but through energetic imprinting. You might not see it happening, but you'll feel the effects the moment you wake up. These are called soul downloads, and they are far more common than most people realize. They don't always arrive as dramatic revelations. Sometimes it's a quiet sense of clarity about a decision. Other times, it's a new ability, like knowing how to navigate a complex situation, or an upgrade in perception that allows you to read people or energy more clearly. You might experience it as a shift in perspective, a belief you've carried for years suddenly dissolves, and something more aligned takes its place. Or maybe you wake up with words in your mind, phrases that seem too profound, too ancient, too precise to be accidental. These are not just random mental sparks, they are transmissions. Think of it like spiritual Wi-Fi. When you sleep, your soul connects to a higher source and downloads the next piece of what you're ready to remember. But unlike digital files, this data comes encoded in vibration, imagery, feeling, and resonance. Your waking mind might not always be able to interpret it immediately, but the knowledge is there, settling into your energetic field, influencing your choices, shaping your awareness from the inside out. And this doesn't just apply to spiritual insight. History is full of scientists, artists, and visionaries who attributed their breakthroughs to dreams. Paul McCartney woke up with the melody to Yesterday in his mind, unsure if he had composed it or simply remembered it. The periodic table came to Dmitri Mendeleev in a dream. Einstein credited his theory of relativity to a dream about cows and fences. These weren't fantasies, they were examples of the soul retrieving what the conscious mind had no access to. They prove that creativity, genius, and innovation are often the result of spiritual remembrance rather than purely mental effort. But why does this happen during sleep? Because it's only when the ego quiets down that the soul can speak without interference. In waking life, you're bombarded with noise, opinions, fears, doubts, distractions. Your mind filters out anything that doesn't align with your current beliefs. But when you sleep, those filters drop. You become open, receptive, available to receive frequencies of truth that would otherwise be drowned out. And the soul, given this sacred window, takes full advantage. It delivers what you've been asking for, even if you didn't know how to ask. Sometimes, these downloads come in the form of remembering something ancient. You may wake up with a deep familiarity with symbols, languages, or philosophies you've never studied. You may find yourself naturally drawn to specific spiritual practices or cultural traditions, feeling as though you've done them before. This isn't imagination, it's resonance. Your soul remembers lifetimes of learning and mastery, and when the timing is right, it begins to bring that wisdom forward again. This is also why so many people awaken to spiritual gifts later in life, not because those gifts are new, but because the soul has finally cleared enough space to activate them. You might suddenly develop healing abilities, intuitive perception, or a deep understanding of metaphysical truths. You didn't learn these things from a course, you reactivated them, you remembered. The modern world, with its obsession over credentials and external knowledge, often dismisses these experiences. It says, that can't be real, you didn't study it, but the soul laughs gently at such limitation. The soul doesn't need permission to know, it is knowledge. It is connected to the field where all wisdom lives, and the more you trust those moments of sudden clarity, the more frequently they will come. Because spiritual intelligence doesn't respond to skepticism, it responds to openness. You must learn to trust what comes to you in the quiet hours. Not every dream is a riddle to be solved. Some are seeds to be planted, some are gifts wrapped in metaphor. Some are echoes of the divine reminding you of who you are. The more you honor them, the more fluent you become in the language of your own soul. Start by creating a space for reception. Before you sleep, speak your intention. Ask to receive whatever your soul knows you're ready for. Don't demand specifics. The soul speaks in subtleties. Trust it knows more than your mind. Keep a notebook by your bed and write whatever comes upon waking, no matter how small or strange. Over time, the pieces will begin to connect. The knowing will become clearer. The wisdom will unfold not as information, but as transformation. Remember, this isn't about learning in the traditional sense. It's about remembering who you are and reclaiming what you already carry. You are not here to accumulate facts. You are here to awaken truths that were encoded into your spirit before you were ever born. And every time you close your eyes at night, you enter the temple where that awakening continues. So, the next time you wake up with a sudden insight, don't doubt it. The next time you feel guided to write, paint, build, or speak from a place you didn't know existed, don't question it. That is your soul, handing you the next piece of your divine puzzle. That is revelation, not imagination. And it means you're beginning to remember, because the truth has always been inside you, waiting for the silence of sleep to rise again. There are dreams that feel like memories, and then there are memories that feel like dreams. And in the space between the two, the soul moves. Each night, as the body sinks into stillness, and the thinking mind dissolves into silence, the soul rises. Unbound by time or identity, it returns to a greater field of connection. It is here, in this sacred dream space, that you often meet those who have passed, those you've been, and those you've always known but forgotten. These are not figments of the imagination. They are real encounters, moments of reunion, glimpses across time. the soul reconnecting with the essence of those it loves. You've likely felt it, that unmistakable presence in a dream, a loved one who has long left the physical world, yet whose energy feels more real than anything you experience in waking life. Their voice, their scent, their touch, not a ghost, not a hallucination, but them, whole, radiant, free of pain. These dreams are not wishful thinking, they are soul meetings. Spaces where the veil has thinned enough for connection to occur. The dead are not dead, they are simply vibrating at a frequency the physical eyes can no longer see, but the soul sees perfectly. In these nighttime reunions, you may find yourself sitting across from someone you miss deeply, having a conversation that your waking heart has been aching for. And even if the details of the dream fade upon waking, the feeling lingers, a peace, a warmth, a sense that healing has taken place, because it has. Soul-to-soul contact does not require words. It operates through presence, through shared recognition, through love that was never broken, only hidden behind the illusion of separation. Sometimes, these encounters are not with people you consciously remember, but with those from lifetimes before, past selves, ancestral echoes, or companions from other incarnations. You may dream of walking through an unfamiliar land that feels like home. You may wear clothes from another era, speak in a voice that's not your own, yet feel completely at ease. You may experience moments that don't match anything in your current life, yet stir emotions so profound they bring you to tears. These are not random stories, they are fragments of your soul's journey. Reminders of who you've been. Glimpses into lives that continue to shape you, even now. In this sacred space, you are not limited by linear time. The soul exists in a spiral, weaving through dimensions and timelines with ease. It remembers everything, not just this life, but the ones before, and sometimes even the ones to come. When you sleep, you may find yourself re-experiencing a decision made centuries ago, a relationship that began long before your current birth, or a lesson your soul has been trying to learn across lifetimes. These dreams often feel emotionally charged, heavy, vivid, intense, not because they're traumatic, but because they carry the weight of soul, truth. And then there are dreams where you meet yourself, not the version of you that stares back from the mirror each morning, but alternate versions, higher, younger, older, parallel. You may witness yourself making different choices, living in another city, loving another person. You may observe without judgment, simply absorbing the vastness of your own being. These dreams are gifts. They remind you that you are not a fixed identity, but a fluid essence. You are not confined to one storyline. You are a tapestry of experiences, stitched together by consciousness itself. These dream encounters serve a higher purpose, healing. Sometimes, the healing comes from seeing a loved one at peace, which releases your grief. Other times, it comes from revisiting a past self, still caught in suffering, offering it compassion, and allowing that part of you to release its pain. Still other times, the healing is mutual. You offer someone forgiveness they never received in waking life, or receive closure that was denied by physical death. These moments transcend therapy, logic, or even language. They are soul-level reconciliations. They change you from the inside out. You might wake up crying, laughing, or feeling a presence still lingering near. Don't dismiss it. Don't call it just a dream. You were there, your soul was present, and what happened matters. Start honoring those moments. Write them down, speak them aloud, share them if you feel called. The more you acknowledge these soul visits, the more you'll remember them. The more you trust in their reality, the more vivid they'll become. Not every dream will feel profound. Some may be strange, disjointed, or quickly forgotten, but the ones that matter, you'll know. They arrive with a signature frequency, a weight that presses on the heart, a recognition that hums in the body, a quiet voice that says, "This was real," and it was. In truth, sleep is a return to connection, to remembrance, to the deeper relationships that continue beyond death, beyond identity, beyond form. You are never alone in your dreams. Even when it feels like no one understands you in waking life, even when the world feels cold or disconnected, your soul is still reaching, still connecting, still loving across dimensions. And the beauty of this truth is that you can begin to live from it. You can walk through your days knowing that your soul has companions you've never met, allies you can't name, and histories that hold wisdom for your present moment. You can live with the quiet confidence that the people you've lost are not gone. They're just waiting for you in the space where silence begins. The dream world is not a fantasy, it is a bridge, a sacred temple where the soul returns to find what was never truly lost. And when you allow yourself to cross that bridge with reverence, to believe in what your soul knows, you open the door to a life guided not just by facts, but by remembrance, by love, by connection that defies space and time. So the next time you close your eyes, remember this: you are not drifting into unconsciousness, you are stepping into reunion, and someone, maybe many, are waiting for you on the other side. Most people wake up each morning with no memory of where they've been, what they've seen, or who they've encountered during sleep. It's as if the entire night has been erased, leaving only vague impressions or fleeting emotions that disappear by the time coffee is made. And yet, deep within you, you know something happened. You can feel it, a strange sensation in your chest, an unexplainable emotion, a haunting familiarity with the day ahead. That's not coincidence. That's the residue of your soul's nightly journey, the echoes of a realm you've traveled through but have forgotten how to bring back with you. The forgetting isn't failure. It's a veil, one that was once thin but has grown heavy in the modern age. The truth is, you're not meant to forget. Your soul doesn't spend every night traveling through higher dimensions, meeting guides, receiving healing, and downloading wisdom just to have it all vanish by sunrise. But remembering what your soul sees requires something most people have lost: attunement. Not with the noise of the world, but with the quiet rhythms of your inner being. The forgetting happens not because your soul is unwilling to share, but because your mind has become too full, too distracted, too disconnected to hear. Think about how you end your day. For many, sleep is an afterthought, a final collapse after hours of stimulation, screens, stress, and scattered thoughts. The body may fall into bed, but the mind is still buzzing, looping through worries, digesting media, or replaying conversations. And in that state, there is no bridge between the soul's experiences and the conscious mind's ability to retain them. The dreams that do come are fragmented, distorted by mental clutter, and forgotten almost instantly, not because they lack meaning, but because the receiver is not tuned. To remember what your soul sees, you must become a conscious participant in your sleep process. You must turn rest into ritual and dreaming into sacred practice. This begins before your head ever hits the pillow. Set an intention. Speak it aloud or silently. I ask to remember where my soul travels tonight. I welcome the wisdom that will come. I am open to what my higher self needs me to know. These are not magic spells. They are spiritual permissions. They open the channel between realms, inviting awareness to linger through the veil. The next step is to create a space that honors the sacredness of sleep. Your environment matters. Dim the lights well before bed. Avoid screens, artificial blue light, and violent or chaotic content. These aren't just distractions, they are energetic pollutants. Your soul cannot easily land in a chaotic field. Instead, try candlelight, soothing music. A few minutes of slow breathing, or simply sitting in silence with your hand on your heart. In this state, the pineal gland, often called the third eye, begins to activate. This tiny gland, nestled deep in your brain, is your soul's lens into the unseen. It responds to darkness, stillness, and intention. And when it opens, you begin to perceive more clearly what you once ignored. Keep a journal beside your bed. Notebooks are more powerful than you think. Upon waking, write down anything, even if it seems insignificant. A color, a feeling, a word, a person's face. These fragments are keys. Over time, your soul will trust you with more. As you prove that you will listen, it will begin to speak louder. And you'll start to notice that what seemed like nonsense in a dream carries profound wisdom when seen through the eyes of the heart. You can also support this process by creating a symbolic action that anchors your intention. Place a crystal near your bed. Use essential oils like frankincense or lavender. Say a small prayer or blessing over your pillow. These gestures, however small, signal to your subconscious that sleep is sacred. They create a resonance that welcomes the presence of higher guidance. Another powerful technique is to review your day in reverse before you fall asleep. Start with the last moment and move backward. As you do this, you clear the clutter of daily thoughts, helping your mind prepare for the soul's journey. You also train your awareness to retain details, an essential step in increasing dream recall. Sometimes, remembering what your soul sees doesn't come as vivid dreams, but as morning knowing. You wake up with an insight, a creative idea, a sense of peace or direction. That's a memory, not of imagery, but of energy. Learn to honor it. Don't dismiss it just because it's not visual. Your soul speaks in many languages. Feeling is one of its most powerful. It's also important to know that not all dreams are literal. Many are symbolic. Your soul uses imagery the way poets use metaphors, to say what cannot be said directly. A journey through a collapsing city might reflect the crumbling of old beliefs. Meeting a stranger who feels like family might be a reunion with a guide. Flying through stars might be a visit to realms your human mind can't yet comprehend. Don't look for logic, look for resonance. What moved you? What stayed with you after waking? That's where the message lives. And what about the dreams you can't remember at all? Know this, just because your mind forgets doesn't mean your soul does. The lessons are still absorbed, the healing still happens. The guidance still shapes your path. You may notice changes in your behavior, your relationships, your perspective. You'll make a decision that feels strangely right. You'll avoid something you can't explain. You'll recognize a person you've never met. These are the footprints of the soul, quietly guiding your waking life, even when memory fails. You can strengthen this connection by speaking to your soul during the day. Ask it to show you signs, to reinforce what you saw during the night. The more you build this relationship, the more porous the veil becomes. Sleep becomes less of a blackout and more of a bridge. And you begin to live not just as a body with a mind, but as a soul in communion with itself. Remembering what your soul sees is not about control, it's about receptivity. You are not trying to force your way into hidden realms. You are inviting yourself to return home, to listen, to feel, to trust. And as that trust deepens, the veil lifts. What your soul sees at night is more real than what your eyes see by day. It is the deeper world, the world of energy, spirit, and truth. And every night, you go there. The question is not whether you journey. The question is whether you will remember. There comes a moment when the dream no longer controls you, when something within stirs, questions, observes. That subtle shift where you realize, wait, this is a dream. And in that moment, the veil thins. You awaken not into the physical world, but within the dream itself. This is not imagination or fantasy. It is the beginning of conscious soul travel, the sacred art of moving through the invisible realms with eyes wide open. And when it happens, when you awaken inside your own dream, everything changes. Lucid dreaming is more than a curious phenomenon. It is a spiritual threshold, a doorway into higher awareness where your soul begins to remember its own nature. Suddenly, the rules of the physical world fall away. Time bends, space shifts, and what was once hidden becomes visible. This isn't just about controlling your dream environment or flying through the sky. It's about stepping into your own divine authorship, remembering that you are not merely the dreamer, you are the consciousness behind it all. You are the observer, the creator, the explorer. In these moments of clarity, something ancient inside you awakens. The dream is no longer a passive experience. It becomes a classroom, a mirror, a temple. You start to realize that the characters around you might be aspects of your psyche, fragments of past lives, or even guides appearing in symbolic form. You begin to ask questions, not just of the dream, but of your soul. Why am I here? What is this trying to teach me? What truth lies beyond this layer of illusion? When you awaken within the dream, you're not just gaining insight into your sleeping mind. You're reconnecting with Source, because every dream, every symbol, every encounter carries a vibration. And in that heightened state of awareness, you're able to feel it with purity. You don't just see the light, you become it. You remember the presence of divine love not as an idea, but as a living truth, vibrating in every corner of your being. The dream becomes a sacred container where your soul communes with the infinite. These experiences are more common than many realize, yet they are often dismissed or forgotten upon waking. And that's no accident. The material world conditions you to forget. It distracts, it clouds. It mocks the inner worlds as fantasy, imagination, nonsense. But something deeper in you knows. Every time you awaken in a dream, a part of you stays awake when you return to the physical. You begin to carry the light of that awareness into your waking life. You notice synchronicities. You feel guidance. You trust your inner knowing more. You no longer live just as a body walking through time. You begin to live as a soul moving through a multi-dimensional experience. Lucid dreaming is not an escape. It's a return to your divine origin, to the wisdom that was buried, to the source you never truly left. And it doesn't happen by force. It unfolds with intention. If you wish to awaken in the dream, begin by setting the intention before you sleep. Speak directly to your soul. Invite awareness. Ask to remember. Then, when you dream, start noticing. Look at your hands. Question the details. Ask yourself, is this real? These are the tiny cracks that open into profound awakenings. And when you find yourself lucid, don't rush to control or manipulate the dream. Instead, listen, observe, feel, ask, what am I here to learn? Or, show me my soul. These invitations turn the dream from a playground into a portal. The more you honor this space, the more vivid it becomes. The more you listen, the more you're shown. You might meet beings of light, encounter mentors from other dimensions, or even stand face to face with your higher self. You may travel through galaxies, into the Akashic records, or into timelines that shift your understanding of who you are. You'll begin to notice a pattern, an unshakable truth. You are never alone in your dreams. Even when you think no one's there, even in the quietest dreamscape, there are guides, protectors, energies surrounding you. They don't always appear in forms your mind expects. Sometimes they're a stranger offering a word, sometimes a glowing animal, sometimes simply a feeling of overwhelming peace that wraps around you like a memory you've waited your whole life to feel again. This is the essence of divine presence. You were never abandoned. You were just asleep to the truth. Every night, the universe reaches for you. Through dreams, visions, symbols, and subtle impressions, it tries to remind you, to pull you back, toward remembrance. Not to overwhelm you, but to gently show you that this life is not the full story, that you are part of something vast, intelligent, and full of love. That every hardship you face, every lesson, every delay is part of a larger orchestration, and in the dream world, when you awaken within, you see that orchestration at work. You witness the threads that connect your pain to your purpose. You remember why you came here. These lucid moments don't just transform your sleep, they transform your waking life. You begin to walk differently, speak differently, think differently. Because once you've tasted that kind of clarity, it becomes impossible to go back to sleepwalking through existence. You begin to feel the presence of your soul not just at night, but in every decision, every encounter, every breath. There is a profound truth in all of this. You are already everything you're seeking. You are already connected to Source. You are already loved beyond comprehension. The dream, the struggle, the forgetting, they were never punishments. They were part of the great unfolding, a sacred descent so that you could rise again. And lucid dreaming is one of the ways you remember that truth. One of the ways your soul whispers, "Wake up, you are more than this." So tonight, when you close your eyes, do so with reverence. Know that you are not entering darkness, but light, not unconsciousness, but deeper awareness. Speak to your soul, invite remembrance. And when the moment comes, when you suddenly know you're dreaming, stand still, breathe it in, let the light wrap around you, ask it to show you who you really are. Because in that sacred moment, you are not lost, you are not dreaming, you are awakening, and everything you thought you were searching for has been inside you all along.